Shabbat Shalom. This coming Shabbat, we actually read from 3 Torahs. It is Rosh Chodesh, the new month of Nisan, Shabbat HaChodesh, which traditionally we celebrate either on the Saturday immediately preceding the new moon of Nisan or on the Saturday when it happens itself. And we have the regular Torah portion. This week and next week, we will read Tazria and Mitzorah, 2 Torah portions completely centered around skin ailments, discharges, and the kind of things that we don't like to hear about because it makes us a little bit queasy. 2 Torah portions. One could make the case that we probably only needed one, and traditionally the way we explained it is based on the Miriam story, because Miriam gossips against her brother Moses, and then she is stricken with leprosy. So we explain it that we need all of this detail because at its heart this may have been a physical ailment, but it was caused by one of the worst kinds of spiritual wrongdoings. That may be. But for me there has to be something deeper here. If you look at the text in a completely objective, non-emotional way, it seems to me that the thing that is most clear above anything else is that these kinds of ailments freaked everybody out. The Jews of their day, probably everybody else, and probably for some time. The easiest way for them to explain the unexplainable was that it was somehow divinely inspired or divinely ordained. And so they took upon purification rituals where undoubtedly the result was either the person died or was healed, but to them that was the response that they were looking for because it meant either God's acceptance or rejection. In reality, from a modern context, it's difficult to find meaning in this. But it dawned on me this year, perhaps what we are supposed to look at is how fortunate we are to live in a culture where we have modern medical technology and we don't have to freak out. Where so many of the ailments that befall us on a day-to-day basis are explainable, have medicines, treatments. We're so fortunate that each day there are new discoveries and new advances that make disease fighting and ailment fighting that much easier and that much more explainable. How fortunate are we that we live in that time and not in the biblical times, as we read in this week's Torah portion. Shabbat Shalom.